We don't talk much about meditation, and meditation is very, very, very important to have applicability to our lives. It's always important to employ meditation when reading the Bible. Meditating is quite different than simply reading the Bible. It's where you contemplate, you go, and then you make personal application to your life. You park there, you study it out, you understand it. You don't leave there until you think, yeah, that's right. And it means something to you. King David evidently took this process very seriously in his relationship with God. Let me read you a few verses. May these words, Psalm 19:14, may these words of my mouth and this meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight. He said in Psalm 49:3, my mouth will speak words of wisdom. The meditation of my heart will give you understanding. Psalm 104:34, may my meditation be pleasing to him as I rejoice in the Lord. Psalm 119 verse 15, I meditate on your precepts and consider your ways. Psalm 119:48, my eyes stay open through the watches of the night that I may meditate on your promises. Psalm 143, I remember the days of long ago. I meditate on all your works and consider what your hands have done. So David was constantly going, what does that have to do with me? See, a lot of times we read, and let's be honest, there's some times where we're reading and we're just simply reading for the sake of to read because we know we should be reading the Bible. Well, you need to read and meditate. Apply thy words to the tablets of my heart, as Solomon would say. In this lesson, I'm going to take another verse of David's writing from the Psalms and meditate out loud. I'm just going to go, and then I'm going to process it out loud for two reasons. Number one, I want to be able to apply every word of God to my life, if possible. I can't understand everything. But the second thing is, so you can kind of see maybe a little bit of the process of meditating upon a couple verses. We're going to park on just two verses. We're going to park the car, take the keys out, and sit, and we're not leaving until I can apply it to my life. So in this lesson, we're going to take Psalm 139, verse 13 and 14. Listen to what the psalmist says. David said, for thou didst form my inward parts. Thou didst weave me in my mother's womb. I will give thanks to thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. This is a deeply thought-provoking image which David reflected upon. It's one of my favorite verses in the Bible. For David is meditating on the glory of God through a 10th century BC perspective of his time in the womb. And in so doing, he grew in his joy and his present relationship with God. And that's what God wants us to do when we read the Bible, to not go away from it unchanged. I want to take the same joy into my life. Therefore, I will also meditate on this verse from a 21st century perspective. We know a little bit more about these things than maybe they do scientifically, but we could be equal on how we apply it to our lives. So let's go with the meditation of Doug. David reflected on the glory of God. Well, now, let the meditation begin. Meditation. Conception. God formed my inward parts. Do you know this is my earliest childhood photo that I have of myself? It is. That's right. At my conception, 23 chromosomes from my biological father merged with 23 of my biological mother, came together at fertilization and formed me, a tiny one-cell embryo, and then I started splitting. My 46 chromosomes were assembled for the first time, and this exact DNA at that moment, back in April of 1965, when I burst onto the scene, that's the exact same DNA I have today and that I will take with me to the grave. And no other critter on earth has that exact same DNA because I have no twin. There can be no twin of me. We would drive each other crazy. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And guess what? You know what? This also looks like Brother Brown. And Brother Wingate, you can kind of see that a little bit right there. You can see that. And there's some Lonnie down there. This is us. We all have that. I mean, this is our earliest baby photo. Right there. And then you have the cell duplication and implantation. The size of my whole being within the first 24 hours was the size of the head of a pin. But cell duplication was already underway. I descended down the fallopian tube and was implanted in the uterine wall. And as the hours ticked away, it went from 1 cell to 2, then 2 cells to 4, then 4 to 8. And because I was growing inside the womb, the placenta and the umbilical cord all started developing into the uterine wall because that would be my food source. This is also another old photo of me. I look like a tadpole, but that's okay. You did too. Additionally, the amniotic sac formed and began to fill with fluid for my protection because my mom, she was always running around and I couldn't be bouncing around and hitting the sides of the wall and everything. I don't know about you. I look at this, I think, man, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am truly fearfully and wonderfully made. And God formed the inward parts. And He wove me together in the womb. How did He do that? Well, He invented DNA. He invented our DNA. God owns the patent on it, not Bill Gates. Not the U.S. government, not anybody. God came up with that patent. He literally pounded out in a split second the most detailed software ever written, so powerful that it actually converts to three-dimensional objects in an organic world. We can't even touch that. The most brilliant minds can't write something like that. And that's just what we know. And everything as God designed it happened that way. Now, let me ask you this. I know when I used to be in college in the 80s and we started getting to write our own programs and everything. Do you know that when you put a command line in the software, do you think that they just had a bunch of monkeys hitting on a computer and said, whoa, look what happened. This program does this. They knew that the Donkey Kong guy, whatever his name was trying to get up that thing. They knew the gorilla was going to throw the barrels. They knew it would make sounds. Do you think that was all by accident? No. Whoever writes the software knows exactly what it's going to do. And God wrote the software in each and every one of us, and that's how He foreordained. He knew what would happen. He knew how this would turn out. And that's why God doesn't ever say, oh, I didn't know that. How can He be omniscient, omnipresent, omnibenevolent, you name it? Because He's the programmer. And so when my inward parts formed, when I was being woven together in the womb, just thinking about it, I can glorify God. Month one, here's my 1 month baby picture. Right there, you see I finally starting to get my arms on there. Yeah. The next 4 weeks, the body continued forming along with an oversized head and facial features. The placenta continued to provide all the nutrients, oxygen, and the immunity I needed to keep alive and thriving. My tiny heart was beating 65 times a minute at this point. And I was a whopping, ready, 1/4 inch tall. That's right, wow, truly. I was knit together in my mother's womb. Jeremiah 1:5, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, God said. Here's my 2-month baby picture. Meditating further, at the end of my 2nd month, my legs and arms had formed from tiny buds on each side of me. My facial features had further formed to the point of forming ears, fingers, and even toes. The neurotube at the back of my skull contained a brain, spinal cord, other neural tissue. I was 1 inch tall, sporting a skeletal structure and an early digestive tract. Ecclesiastes 11:5 says, just as you do not know the path of the wind and how bones are formed in the womb of the pregnant woman, so you do not know the activity of God who makes all things. All we can do at the end, they still don't know how this happens. You know, when they said test tube baby or in vitro fertilization, they think they're playing God. Go get your own inorganic material and start from that. Don't take something that God already made and take credit for it. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. My 3rd month photo. Now, of course, these are not my photos, but these are all of our photos. Okay, this is an ultrasound. There I am, right there. I kind of look like I have a goat leg or something, don't I? But I'm forming. By the end of the 3rd month, my arms, hands, fingers, feet are totally formed. I was able to open and close my hands and my mouth now. My teeth are already forming under my gums, and my gender is clearly prevalent. I was fully formed, sporting a 4-inch frame before entering the 2nd trimester. Job 31:15 says, did not he who made me in the womb make him? And the same fashion us in the womb? Here's my 4th month picture. That's right. By the end of month 4, my fingers and toes were very defined. I could hear my heartbeat pumping blood through my veins. Additionally, I was able to grow eyelids, eyebrows, eyelashes, nails, and hair. If I could figure out how to grow that hair thing again, I'd be a rich man. I was now an impressive length of 6 inches and could already suck my thumb. I finally had left the most vulnerable trimester, passing from the 1st to the 2nd. Jeremiah 20 verse 17. Because he did not kill me before birth, so that my mother would have been my grave, and her womb ever pregnant. I don't even know how any of us made it through this passage. Not one single person in here studied molecular biology, genetics. Nobody in here. But you all pulled it off, didn't you? You either were born or gave birth or both. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Oh, my 5th month picture. By the end of this month, I was able to move around the womb. My muscles developed enough I could push against the uterine wall, causing fluttering movement to my mother. My hair was growing on my head. Body was coated with a whitish coating called vernix caosa, which is protection against the amniotic fluid from eating away at the skin. God just said, let there be moisturizer. And it was so. He baked it right into the software. I was 10 inches long and weighed nearly a pound. Psalm 119, verse 73, my hands made me and fashioned me. And yes, I can meditate about my time in the womb and say, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Oh, here's my 6-month photo. I'm chilling. At that point, my finger and footprints are fully formed. The same ones I have today, I got way back then. No man did that. That's God's handiwork. My skin was translucent with all my veins showing. I could hear the sound outside the womb, like my mother's voice, music playing. Remember that time you played that Johnny Horton song when I was 6 months in the womb, Mom? Remember that? I remember that. 1814, we took it, and I thought, hey, yeah. Remember how I fluttered? That was me going like this. No. But I could hear, and I began to process this stuff. I don't know how, but I did. Sometimes I developed hiccups, even though I wasn't even eating, to help develop the esophagus and the inner part. I was 12 inches tall. Nobody in that womb told me what to do because I was 2 pounds now. I could have survived outside the womb if I was born at that time today. Easily survive outside of the womb. Job 10:11 says, clothe me with skin and flesh, knit me together with bones and sinews. Yeah, God is a masterful designer. Month 7. This is an artist rendering. But you can see the placenta, the umbilical cord. Look at that muscular structure right there on the upper arm. I had Mom swallow a set of Weider weights, so I got to work out. But no, really, my hearing at this stage was fully developed. I could hear all the conversations around me, and my mother's voice calmed me during times of duress and upset me sometimes. And the amniotic fluid decreased because I had grown to 14 inches and easily 2 pounds, almost pressing 3. I needed my space. And so it's getting pretty crowded in here by that time. That's going to be important because my next photo, my 8th month photo, in preparation of being born again, I'm starting to shift my position. And I kick the uterine wall quite frequently. My brain was developing rapidly. My lungs, ears, eyes were nearly fully developed. My immune system kicked in. No longer was I mooching just off of your immune system. I needed my own because I was about to embark on a journey. I was 18 inches and nearly 5 pounds at this time. Psalm 22:10 says, upon thee I was cast from birth. Thou hast been my God from my mother's womb. Whether or not you realize this, the mere fact that you're being knitted together, your inward parts are there, that you're not the one who came up with it, there's no one but to glory God. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. After month 9, I was born. That's me. That's a few months later, of course. I was fully developed, leading to that point of being able to respond to sounds, lights, and touch. It was incredibly crowded during the womb, forced me to shift position. Remember that time, Mom? I had to go upside down because there just wasn't any room for my big bottom side down. So then I turned over. I didn't have a class on how to do it down at the community college. It just happened. I was more than 21 inches and over 7 pounds, fully ready to enter the world on January 28, 1965. And after meditating on Psalm 139, 13, and 14, I can conclude without a doubt that God formed me. He formed my inward parts. He wove me together in my mother's womb. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. God, wonderful are your works, and my soul knows it very well. So, at every step of the fetal journey, from conception to birth, it's evident to me, in my life, you can believe what you want, but I know God was behind this. He designed the DNA, which made it possible. He knew me before I was even made because he wrote the program. Being the master programmer of the entire genetic code, I can see how he formed my inward parts, knit me together in my mother's womb. If any single one of those steps, okay, you tell me which step you can remove, you can eliminate, that would not have changed the future. That would not have ever happened. Take away the conception. Take away any of those steps. End it in one, it ends the complete thing. Doesn't take a Solomon to figure that out. So, closing thought. I once heard of a young teenage girl overseas. She was in a small rural town. She was found out to be pregnant. Where she at? The young man she was going with was a very much a religious man who saved himself for marriage. They didn't have relations. When he found out that she was pregnant, how do you think he reacted? He was incredibly upset. He was done with her. And if her parents found out about it, it would be even worse. All her friends from this small conservative village would surely frown on this behavior. She was really, really, really scared. Though she was in a terrible position, though she never considered aborting the child, for which I am very grateful. Let me tell you about that child. Behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which is translated, God with us. Joseph arose from his sleep, and did as the angel of the Lord commanded, and took her as his wife, and kept her a virgin until she gave birth to her son Jesus. When I hear people on TV always talking about this circumstance, that circumstance, everybody's got a circumstance, and I'm so glad that Mary saw the big picture. And every single one of us could have easily had one slide removed from our life and go into non-existence. And every one of your magnificent lives would have not been. Most of all, Mary was an unwed teenage mom, shown to be pregnant. Her husband wanted to just get rid of her, but he was a righteous man. God went to him in a vision. God said, no, you don't understand. This is bigger than what you think. He did the right thing. She gave birth to our Savior. I want you to think about all the events that we've seen and will continue to see in the future, and understand that every single life on this earth is precious.